Florida has some of the hottest rappers in the game, but it seems like the whole state is cursed. As soon as someone new blows up in the industry, they end up in jail or on the news for something wild. And today we're breaking down the craziest stories of Florida rappers and why they're all cursed. XXXTentacion was one of the hottest rappers alive before he was brutally killed in 2018, but his whole life seemed cursed from the jump. When X was just 6 years old, he allegedly stabbed a dude who was attacking his mom. Then he went to a youth program and had to live with his grandma. X's dad used to beat him and his mom, and later X went through more trauma when he found his uncle's dead body. He got into music after his aunt convinced him to join the school choir, but X ended up getting kicked out for attacking another kid in the choir. X dropped out in the 10th grade, and it looked like he was going to be in the streets his whole life. But that all changed when he got booked for a gun charge and met his homie, Ski Mask Slump God. Ski and X got close behind bars and would freestyle together, and when they got out of juvie, they decided to start recording music together. X was getting some buzz on his name and decided to leave the streets behind. He dropped 3 projects in 2014, then linked up with Ski Mask and dropped a collab mixtape. By 2016, he was already big enough to quit his day job and go full-time with music. But that same year, he got booked for assault with a deadly weapon in July. Then a few months later, he was arrested again for allegedly putting hands on his girlfriend. He also stabbed his manager Tables, but X got lucky when Tables decided not to press charges against him. Besides the legal drama, X was always making headlines for beefing with other rappers too. He fell out with Ski Mask Slump God and told fans he was going to retire unless Ski became his friend again.
If you want me to make music, tell Ski Mask to be my friend again.
And in 2017, X started beefing with Drake because he thought Drake stole his flow. Drake previewed a song that sounded a lot like X's hit song, Look at Me, which was doing crazy numbers on SoundCloud. X was locked up at the time and felt disrespected that Drake would jack his flow without even reaching out and showing love. So X started dissing Drake on social media and had his fans going after him too. The situation got crazy, and X even sent shots at Drake's mom. Then he started beefing with Offset and the Migos too. A video came out where the Migos allegedly attacked X, but later the news broke that none of the Migos were actually involved with the situation. Even X's concerts were cursed too. At one show, X's homie, Wi-Fi's funeral, jumped into the crowd and people started kicking him. Then a month later, X got knocked out on stage during the show and somebody in the crowd got stabbed. X was making headlines for all the wrong reasons, but people close to him said he wanted to change his life and go down a better path. Unfortunately, he never really got the chance to try though, because in 2018, he was brutally shot and killed in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsome, Dedrick Williams, and Robert Allen spotted X pulling into a motorcycle shop and followed him there. Then when X left the shop, they blocked his car in, and Newsome and Boatwright hopped out to rob him. Newsome grabbed a bag with $50K in cash and headed back to the whip with Boatwright, but then Boatwright upped his rifle and shot X to death. Boatwright, Newsome, and Williams all got hit with life sentences over the murder, but Robert Allen flipped on them and got off with just 7 years. YNW Melly came up in Gifford, Florida, repping the Bloods. His mom had Melly when she was just 14 years old, and back in the day, she could barely afford to buy food. Melly wanted to make it in the rap game, but he got active in the streets at a young age and got booked for shooting 3 teenagers when he was just 15. Melly got off easy and only had to serve a year in juvie, and he ended up dropping his first project while he was still locked up. Before he went inside, Melly had linked up with his homies Sack Chaser, Juvie, and Portland and started the YNW Collective. Melly's first project got him a lot of buzz, and in 2018, he popped off even more when he dropped his debut mixtape. While he was going up in the industry, Melly was still dealing with the Florida curse and getting locked up though. In 2017, he got booked for a probation violation and came home in March 2018. But then just 3 months later, he was arrested again on drug and gun charges. Melly got out and was free for a few months, and he was becoming one of the hottest rappers in the world. Melly was running up huge numbers every time he dropped new music, and he even got a feature from Kanye West. It looked like nothing was going to slow him down. But then in February 2019, the news broke that Melly was facing a double murder case for allegedly killing his homies Sack Chaser and Juvie. When Sack Chaser and Juvie were killed back in 2018, everyone thought they got caught up in a crazy drive-by shooting. But the cops think Melly murdered them while he was in the whip with them. Then Melly and his homie Portland staged the scene to make it look like a drive-by. According to Sack Chaser's dad, they had a deal in the works to sell the YNW brand for $500,000.
Chris told me the same story, and also it was a $500,000 play, and Melly was going to get $200,000, Sack was going to get $200,000, Chris was going to get $100,000. And as I'm hearing it from Chris, they was going to sell the YNW brand, not a record deal or nothing like that. It was like for the brand itself. And by them being founding members, they was going to get a piece of the pie. So I think I don't think Melly did it on his own. I think that manager guy got in his ear and did a little divide and conquer. Because if it was up to Sack, it would never be 100K management.
Melly went to trial in June 2023, but the jury wasn't able to make the decision on the case. 9 of them wanted to convict him, while 3 said he was innocent. And in a death penalty trial, you need all 12 jurors to reach the same verdict. The judge tried to make the jury decide if Melly was guilty or not, but they still couldn't agree, and it was declared a mistrial, which means they have to do the whole thing over again with a new jury. Melly got lucky because he didn't get sent to death row, but the same thing probably won't happen twice. What's really crazy about the situation is how much more popular Melly became after he got arrested for allegedly killing his homies. After the news broke he was going to trial for the deaths of Sack Chaser and Juvie, Melly's track Murder on My Mind blew up and hit crazy numbers. He dropped his debut album From Behind Bars a few months later and hit number 8 on the Billboard charts. In 2020, Melly had another hit after he dropped a remix of his track Suicidal with a feature from Juice WRLD. And in 2021, Melly dropped his second album and hit number 11 on the Billboard chart. Hitting the charts won't help Melly beat the double murder case though, and right now, his fans have no idea if they'll ever see him on the outside again. Ski Mask and Slump God's homie, XXXTentacion, definitely got hit with the Florida curse, but Ski has never really been in trouble. He got caught with around $10 worth of weed when he was a teenager and had to sit down in juvie for a minute, but that's actually what made him hop in the booth and start rapping. While he was on the inside, Ski met X and they started rapping together. Then they both came home and started popping off on SoundCloud. XXXTentacion was always in the headlines for something crazy, but Ski just stayed on the music grind and started working with some of the biggest artists in the game. In 2018, Ski was featured in XXL's freshman class and dropped his debut album. The project hit number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart and ran up crazy numbers. But after that, Ski took his foot off the gas. Ski Mask and Slump God lost his homies XXXTentacion and Juice WRLD back to back, and rumors say that's why he didn't keep up the momentum in the industry. It's clear that Ski never really fell off though, because every time he drops something new, he racks up millions of streams pretty much immediately. Kodak Black came from the bottom and turned himself into one of the biggest stars in the rap game, but now he's falling off and fans are getting worried about his health too. Kodak came up in the Golden Acres projects in Pompano Beach, Florida, and was surrounded by violence since he was a kid. He ended up hopping off the porch like everyone else around him, but Kodak also had dreams of making it in the rap game. Kodak started rapping when he was a kid and started recording tracks in the trap house after school. By the time he was 12, Yak already had his name buzzing around Pompano Beach, and when he dropped his first mixtape in 2013, it took him to another level. Then Drake gave Kodak a co-sign, and that's when everything changed. Yak started running up huge numbers and ended up on the XXL freshman list. He kept the momentum up and hit number 3 on the Billboard 200 chart with his first album. Kodak started working with some of the biggest rappers in the game like Travis Scott, Offset, and Juice WRLD. He was hitting the charts every time he dropped something new, but Kodak was also staying in the headlines for the wrong reasons. Yak has always been one of the wildest dudes in the game, and a lot of people weren't rocking with him outside of the music. Back in 2017, Kodak caught a lot of heat for saying that he don't really like black girls.
Keke Palmer, she's great. I bag her, but you know what I'm saying? I don't really like.
Then a year later, even more people turned on him after he started talking about Nipsey Hussle's girl, Lauren London. Nip had just been tragically killed in his hometown, and Kodak started talking about how he would give Lauren London a year to grieve before he made a move on her.
I give her a whole year. She might need a whole year to be crying and shit. The dude, I ain't trying to shoot at her. I'm saying this. Look. No, she could do 2-3 years, but I try to be like, if you need a friend to holler us, show the mean or you can call my line.
But making people mad on social media isn't the only thing that hurt Kodak's career. He hopped off the porch as a kid and started getting locked up in juvie, and he's been in and out of the system ever since. In 2015, he was popping off after Drake co-signed him, but right after it happened, Kodak got booked for assault, robbery, kidnapping, and other charges. He was able to bond out, but then just 2 months later, he was booked again for weed. Kodak's career was still going up, but then he started getting into more serious trouble. In 2016, he was arrested for sexual battery. Then 2 months later, he was booked for a gun. The cops tried to pull him over after Kodak allegedly bought weed from a plug, but Kodak tried to do the race and tossed a Glock 23 out of his car while the cops were chasing him. He spent a lot of 2016 behind bars. Then in February 2017, he got booked for violating his house arrest and allegedly putting hands on a bartender in Miami. Yak ended up getting sentenced to 364 days in prison, but he got out early because he finished a life skills course. Yak going in and out of jail kept his name in the spotlight, and he also never stopped dropping new music. In 2018, he got booked on another gun case and other charges and had to go back to prison again though. This time he got his GED, changed his name to Bill K. Capri, and even started talking about writing a book. Fans thought Kodak was finally ready to switch up how he was moving, but it didn't last long. Kodak came home and got back on the music grind, but just a couple of months later, he got caught trying to take a Glock into Canada. He bonded out again, but less than a month later, he caught a federal gun case in Miami right before he was going to perform at Rolling Loud. Yak had been lucky and never got hit with any long sentences, but that all changed with the Fed case. He pleaded guilty and the judge gave him 3 years and 10 months. It was a major setback, but all the money Kodak made from rapping helped him afford a good lawyer. Yak's lawyer was a dude named Bradford Cohen, who represented a lot of big celebrities like DMX, Dennis Rodman, and Lil Wayne, and also had ties to President Donald Trump. Kodak caught a big break when Donald Trump pardoned him in 2021, but he still couldn't stay out of trouble. He was booked for trespassing in January 2022. Then just a month later, he got shot in the leg outside of a Super Bowl party in Hollywood hosted by Justin Bieber. Luckily, Kodak survived the shooting, but for the next few years, fans were getting more worried about what's going on with him. Yak went on the Drink Champs podcast in 2023, and after the episode came out, a lot of people were saying Kodak needed help. Kodak got busted on another drug case a couple of months after the podcast. Yak was arrested after a cop went up to his car because he was blocking the road and found him asleep behind the wheel. When police searched the car, they found a drug that they thought was coke, so they arrested him. Kodak later told fans that he had already spent $350K on rehab, but it's clear that there was still something going on, because after Yak got out of jail, he made headlines again for throwing rocks at a reporter. All the legal drama definitely slowed Kodak down, and it looks like the drugs are messing with him too. He still has a lot of fans, but Kodak isn't making waves in the industry like he used to. Back in the day, he was running up billions of streams on features and his own hits. But on Yak's last project, most of the tracks barely hit 1 million. When Kodak was coming up in the game, his homie Jackboy was right by his side the whole time. But then they sparked a wild beef, and Jackboy got hit with the Florida curse too. Jackboy hopped off the porch around the same time as Yak, and while he was locked up, Jackboy said that Kodak was the only person beside his mom who would check on him and send him money. Jackboy was in prison while Kodak was blowing up in the industry, but when he came home, Jackboy hopped in the booth and signed to Kodak's label, Sniper Gang. It was all cool at first, but then Kodak started beefing with NBA Youngboy and everything fell apart. Kodak and Youngboy started sending shots back and forth after Kodak allegedly dissed Youngboy. Kodak dropped the track Time Never Mattered and rapped, "But I hope that I don't go broke again. Nigga, I'm killing young babies. Kodak never going broke again. Nigga, you a free agent." After that, Youngboy's homie Quando Rondo burned a Sniper Gang shirt. Then Kodak's homies clapped back by burning an NBA Youngboy shirt. Kodak and Jackboy have been tight since they were kids, so Jackboy hopped in the beef to back his homie up. The beef with Youngboy died off and everything was cool again, but then Kodak got out of prison in 2021 and started throwing shade at Jackboy. They went back and forth on social media, and at one point, it got so heated that they were screaming at each other on IG Live.
I had your password, yes or no? I had your password, yes or no? I had your password? I had your password? Yes or no? Yes or no?
According to Jackboy,
the beef started, I was in prison when the beef started. I was in prison in Virginia, and I guess the nigga burnt the boxes or some shit. That was how the beef started. Like, a nigga burnt your boxes. That ain't my merch, a nigga, you know what I'm saying? So now you posting and you got people posting on your page all type of wild shit, and then you trying to say, oh, Jack.
Was it you posted?
Come on, man. I ain't never had no nigga IG, man.
Kodak also said that Jackboy owed him some money and called him ungrateful for giving him a career.
I got an M for him when he come home. Soon, boom. I came home early. Soon niggas like, oh yeah, bro, about to come home. All of a sudden, niggas just get ghosts. Nigga move. Know what I'm saying? Nigga move. Nigga just go again strange, homie.
But he didn't go into much detail about what really happened. And instead of talking it out and squashing the issue, Jackboy and Kodak started dissing each other and fell out completely. Falling out with Kodak didn't help Jackboy's career, but that wasn't even the worst thing he was going through. Back in January 2023, Jackboy almost got killed after a show in Sanford, Florida. 6 cars full of shooters affiliated with the set called On Top Forever pulled up after the show and started shooting into a Sprinter van they thought Jackboy was in. It turns out they had the wrong car though, and they ended up shooting a bunch of random innocent people. One woman was tragically killed, and the cops think that the On Top Forever dudes were trying to take Jackboy out just to get some clout. Then later that year, someone pulled up outside of Jackboy's crib and shot a dude 3 times. When the news broke, everyone thought Jackboy was the one who got hit up, but Jackboy hopped on social media and let the fans and ops know that nobody shot him. It looked like Jackboy had actually escaped the Florida curse and was still going up in the industry after the beef with Kodak. But then in March 2024, the news broke that he had been arrested on gun charges. The The cops pulled Jackboy over for a illegal window tint and because they smelled weed. When Jackboy stopped, he couldn't roll his window down all the way because his whip was bulletproof. And when he opened his door, the cops spotted a Glock with an extended clip on the floor and a bunch of weed too. Jackboy is already a convicted felon, and the cops in Florida have him listed as a documented gang member, so they hit him with a bunch of serious felonies for the Glock and weed. Jackboy looked like he was about to make it out and not go down like everyone else who got hit with the Florida curse, but now he's facing some serious time. Hot Boy is one of the hottest rappers in Florida before he caught a RICO case, but what a lot of fans didn't know about was his deadly war with another artist from Orlando named Glock 9. Hot Boy started rapping when he was just 7 years old and was dropping tracks all the way back in 2016. But back then he still had both feet in the trenches and wasn't really taking rap seriously. He had a track called Switcheroo that was popping off in Orlando and getting him some looks, but then Hot Boy caught a charge for breaking and entering and spent a couple of years locked up in juvie. Hot Boy kept rapping while he was locked up and really wanted to go hard in the booth after he came home, and that's exactly what he did. In 2018, Hot Boy popped off with the track Life of a Dog, but at the same time, he was still active in the streets and repped a crew called the 438 Gang. Around the same time Hot Boy was getting some buzz, Glock 9 was on the come up too. He went on a crazy run and dropped 3 mixtapes in 2018, which led to him getting a deal with Cash Money and Republic Records. Hot Boy and Glock 9 were cool with each other back in the day. They even dropped a song together called Hooligans with LPB Pootie before they all blew up, but then something went down behind the scenes that sparked a war between their crews. Glock 9 is affiliated with a crew called AFNF, and in April 2020, a dude from the set named Demetrius Cox allegedly killed a 438 member named Wolf Luther King. Then while Wolf's family was hosting a memorial service for him, someone rolled through and started letting off shots into the crowd. Wolf was one of Hot Boy's best friends. Losing him to the streets was hard, but Hot Boy put his pain into the track Don't Need Time and rapped, "How my Z died, thought real niggas never die. Gotta sleep tight, cause people ain't waking up now. I know my nigga made it to heaven, I know it. Wish I could call his phone and tell him how it's going. And this Glock look good with every outfit. I wanna put my nigga on, but he ain't out yet." Don't Need Time was running up millions of streams, and Lil Baby even put more shine on Hot Boy when he hopped on the remix. But while Hot Boy was going up in the industry, the war in Orlando was getting even crazier. The cops thought a dude from AFNF named Jeremiah Robinson was behind the shooting, but before they could arrest him, Robinson was allegedly shot in the head by a dude from 438 named Van Sean Sands. According to reports, Robinson and some other AFNF affiliates rode up on Sands and tried to kill him, but Sands upped a rifle and killed Robinson. Glock 9's whip got shot up a few days later, but by the time the cops got to the scene, he was already gone and allegedly sliding on his own cousin. Cudham Reese is another Orlando rapper who's blood cousins with Glock 9. Family ties obviously didn't matter to them though, cause Glock 9 and his homies allegedly dumped over 100 rounds into Cudham Reese's crib. Then Cudham Reese and his homies clapped back by allegedly shooting up Glock 9's aunt's house. The streets were getting more violent every day, and that's why the cops set up a special investigation called Operation X-Force to bring down AFNF and 438. Hot Boy and Glock 9 were both taken down, and Glock 9 got hit with a 7-year sentence in a different case too. Hot Boy was granted bond, but then the judge revoked it after he caught another gun case. Hot Boy did the race for a couple of weeks, but eventually decided to turn himself in. Luckily, he had the gun case dismissed, but he could still end up serving decades in prison over the RICO situation. Tons of big rappers had come out of Florida, but back in the day, it was always artists from the southern areas like Miami and Broward County. Then around 2021, Jacksonville Drill came out of nowhere and put North Florida on the map. Chicago Drill took over the rap game back in the early 2010s, but the Jacksonville wave was even crazier, and one of the dudes who put the scene on the map was Young and Ace. Ace started dropping music back in 2017 and was building some buzz around Jacksonville. He kept it up in 2018 and was getting fans outside of the city too. But that same year, Ace saw his brother and 2 best friends get killed right in front of him. The 4 of them went out for a steak dinner, and when they left the restaurant, the ops caught up to him and started letting off shots. Ace got hit and barely survived, but he was the only one who made it out of the situation alive. Ace stayed on the grind and kept dropping new music, but the war in Jacksonville was leaving bodies in the street on both sides. Ace and his homies were beefing with another rapper from the city named Fulio, and that's what really made the drill scene blow up. The beef really popped off after Fulio's cousin Zion Brown was shot and killed after someone broke into his house and started letting off shots. A dude named DeAndre Thomas, aka Trey Shorty, was later arrested for the murder. Trey Shorty was Ace's homie, and they were both arrested together on a robbery charge back in 2017. Ever since then, Fulio and Ace have hated each other, and their crews have been at war. Ace was already making waves in the industry, but in 2021, he helped put Jacksonville on the map with his track, Who I Smoke. Who I Smoke sampled the pop track 1,000 Miles by Vanessa Carlton. but the lyrics were what shocked everyone. Ace and his homies took shots at Foolio and all of his dead homies with bars like, "I'ma shoot this bitch when I motherfucking see you. I don't go nowhere without my motherfucking heat, cool? Smoking on Lil Petey, I was smoking Trey D too. And where the ops at? Got a low, I told him drop that. FN and it's spitting, one in the head, ain't gotta cock it back. No, I'm smoking jit, and one thing, they just can't get him back." Ace lost his brother and two of his best friends to the beef, but he wasn't the only one taking losses. Foolio's homie Lil Bibby was brutally murdered, and now Ace's homie K-So is facing charges for it. K-So is a rapper too, but he was allegedly one of the deadliest shooters in Jacksonville. Ace even shouted him out on Who I Smoke and rapped, "My killer make his face go. That's one thing about K-So. No hospital gang, boy. You know that shit a case closed. Want him dead, bust his head, all I do is say go." Before he got locked up, a lot of people already thought K-So was involved with Bibby's murder, and he even raps about it on the track K-So Bitch and said, "K-So Bitch, Glocks and Rugers, we be hitting shit, we flipping shit. Don't run, we chase you down, we blitzing shit. Don't be Bibbied out, we hitting shit." K-So is also facing another murder case for allegedly killing another Jacksonville rapper named Lil Buck. Before the cops caught up to him, K-So was popping off in the Jacksonville drill scene, but he's been locked up for years and might never see the outside again if he goes down for the murders. His dad was also arrested for the murder of Lil Buck because he was the getaway driver and even agreed to testify against his own son to get less time. So it don't look like K-So is getting out anytime soon. Besides Young and Ace, Foolio was the biggest rapper in Jacksonville who was putting the city in the spotlight. After Ace blew up by dissing Foolio's homies on Who I Smoke, Foolio clapped back with the track When I See You and sent shots at Ace's brother and homies who died in front of him back in 2018. Foolio was making headlines, but putting a big target on his back too, and he's already survived at least 3 different shootings. One time he was leaving the studio when 2 ops caught him outside and started letting off shots. They allegedly sent 100 shots at him, but Foolio busted back and made it out of the situation alive. Even when Foolio went to Texas, the Florida curse followed him and he almost got killed on the highway. A bullet grazed him in the head after the op shot up his whip, but luckily Foolio didn't get killed. Everyone thought Young and Ace and his homies were behind the hit, and Ace's homie Fast Money Goon pretty much confirmed it on Who I Smoke when he rapped, "I told the Rocket when I travel, I'm pistol packing in Houston. I was lurking on his page and caught him lacking in Houston. We let off shots, he got shot and went live. I was tweaking like, fuck man, that bitch ain't died." Dissing dead ops and songs definitely put a lot of heat on Foolio, but he was cursed before he ever hopped in the booth. Back when he was still in school, someone from his ops hood got killed at a bus stop and Foolio started dissing him on social media before school. The ops thought Foolio was involved with the situation, so later that day, they followed him on the bus and started letting off shots while Foolio was walking home. A bullet hit him in the leg and Foolio had to crawl away, but luckily the ops ran off before they finished the job. Even Foolio's girlfriend Bubin Baby couldn't escape the Florida curse. One day she was driving Foolio's whip when someone pulled up and started letting off shots. Bubin got hit in the hand and ended up losing a finger. And then Foolio's ops spin the bands dissed him on the track I Don't Smoke Kendre and rapped, "This nigga mama got shot and he still tweaking. This nigga bitch got shot, cool, I know she leaving. They shot that whole finger off, she couldn't even tweet it." Rumors say a dude named Leaky was the one who shot Bubin Baby. And after Leaky was shot and killed, Foolio did a feature on Rod K's track, All Gas, and rapped, "Shot my car up twice, then hit my bitch. Now Leaky rest in peace." Then in October 2023, rumors were flying that Foolio had been shot again in Jacksonville and might not make it out alive. His mom hopped on social media and asked people to pray for Foolio. For a minute, it looked like the ops might have actually killed Foolio, but luckily that wasn't the case. He took a brutal shot to the foot, but Foolio made it out alive again. Going to war in the streets isn't the only thing that hurt Foolio's career though. Back in 2022, Foolio got hit with a charge for fleeing from the police after the cops tried to pull him over, and Foolio rolled a few blocks before stopping. A lot of people thought the case should have been thrown out because it was clear Foolio wasn't actually trying to run away, but he got booked anyway and was put on house arrest until May 2023. Foolio and Young and Ace's beef helped the Jacksonville drill scene blow up, but both of them took a lot of losses, and now their careers are falling off too. Foolio dropped a new project in April 2024, but a lot of the tracks didn't even hit 20K streams. Young and Ace dropped a project in March 2024, but his numbers weren't much better. Foolio and him used to run up millions of streams, but now it looks like their fans are moving on. And they're not the only Jacksonville drill rappers who got hit with the Florida curse. J. Breezy came up in Jacksonville, but he wasn't gangbanging back in the day like Young and Ace and Foolio. He was active in the streets and started jacking cars when he was a teenager, but back then, he wasn't involved with a lot of beef. J. also wanted to make it to the NFL. He was a star football player in high school and even won a state championship, but he was still in the trenches and ended up getting booked on a gun charge. While J-Dot was fighting the case, the streets of Jacksonville were really turning up. J-Dot used to be cool with dudes on both sides, but after the beef started leaving bodies in the streets, he wasn't able to stay in the middle anymore. J-Dot came home and wanted to stay out of the trenches. He was already rapping, plus he still thought he could go pro with football. But then some ops showed up to his high school with a gun, and J-Dot ended up getting kicked out of school because the principal thought he was putting other kids in danger. J-Dot's football dreams were gone just like that, so instead he hopped in the booth and started going hard with the music. He was racking up big numbers on his videos and getting some buzz on his name, but J-Dot was still taking losses in the streets. His homie Leaky was shot and killed in 2020, and his death had a major impact on J-Dot. Losing one of his best friends to the trenches made J-Dot realize he wanted to switch up how he was moving, but he still hasn't been able to beat the Florida curse. Back in 2023, news broke that J-Dot had been arrested for family violence and cruelty to children. It doesn't look like he's going to be facing any serious time for the charges, but the situation made him lose a lot of fans. J-Dot's streaming numbers started falling off like crazy, and at this point, it looks like his career is going to just keep going down. J-Dot might have avoided jail time, but these next two artists got hit with the Florida curse and weren't so lucky. YNR Mookie and his homie YNR Slugger T both came up in Jacksonville repping a crew called Young and Ruthless. YNR's clicked up with 6 Block, which is the hood Foolio reps, so they were going to war with Young and Ace and his homies too. There's a lot of different rumors about how Foolio and Ace's crew started beefing, but some people think it really popped off after a shooting at a block party. It's not clear exactly how it went down, but Young and Ace allegedly upped his strap and grazed YNR Mookie, and Slugger T started busting back. Mookie also raps about the situation on the track Dead Ops and said, "They popped out the cut and tried to leave a nigga dead. I got grazed, Slugger shot back, 3 should've left him dead." Then Ace's homie K-So clapped back on the track Bang It Out and raps, "Mookie, what you on, boy? We don't really know your ass. I ain't gonna speak too much, but your ass is almost fucking grass. KTA, boy, your ass better be safe. We had Slugger on the chase, almost ate that nigga face." YNR Mookie and Slugger T were allegedly 2 of the most active dudes in the city, and they even started calling themselves the Murder Twins. They were both trying to make it in the rap game too, but the cops caught up to them before they could blow up. Back in 2018, Mookie got booked for breaking into cars. He came home in 2019, but then Slugger and him were both arrested in a special investigation called Operation Wrap Up. The cops used their music videos against him in court, and Slugger T ended up catching a 7-year sentence over a gun charge. 7 years was tough, but Mookie got it even worse, and the judge hit him with 10 years in prison. Mookie probably could have skated on everything if he flipped on Slugger T. An interrogation video leaked where the cops were trying to get Mookie to point Slug out in the video, but Mookie kept it solid and told him he didn't want to answer any questions.
Who's that? White kid.
Mookie didn't tell on Slugger T, but rumors about snitching basically killed this next rapper's career. Spot 'em Got 'em came up in Jacksonville and was cool with YNR Mookie too. He started dropping music back in 2018, but 2020, he became one of the hottest rappers in the city after his track Beatbox blew up and went viral on TikTok. Spot 'em Got 'em kept the momentum up and dropped a ton of remixes for the track with huge artists like DaBaby, Pooh Shiesty, and Polo G. Beatbox turned him into a star, but nobody expected how fast Spot 'em Got 'em was about to fall off. After Spot 'em dissed Leaky, Leaky's homie Spin the Benz posted some paperwork that allegedly proved Spot 'em had snitched on YNR Mookie. Mookie and Spot 'em were allegedly chilling at Mookie's crib when the cops showed up and searched the place. They found 2 guns, a bag of weed, and another bag of bullets and prescription pills. And Spot 'em Got 'em allegedly told the cops everything after they booked him. According to the report, Spot 'em said that YNR Mookie hid the guns, but admitted that the pills and ammo were his. Spot 'em claims that the paperwork is fake, but that didn't stop it from hurting his career. Before the snitching rumors came out, Spot 'em was blowing up and working with superstars in the game. He even paid $100K to Lil Durk to shoot a music video with him. But Durk allegedly sent the money back after Spin the Benz posted the paperwork about Spot 'em telling on Mookie. Snitching rumors were bad, but Spot 'em proved that the Florida curse is real with these next 2 situations. In July 2021, Spot 'em was arrested after police raided his hotel room and found him in bed with an AK-47. At the time, Spot 'em had a warrant out for his arrest after he allegedly pointed a gun at a parking garage worker because he didn't want to pay his parking ticket. Then in September 2021, Spot 'em was recording at a studio in Miami and posted his location on social media. After the session was over, he hopped in his whip with a homie and got on the highway, and that's when the ops caught him and started letting off shots. Spot 'em caught 5 bullets in the legs, but luckily survived the situation. That wasn't the only thing that he had to deal with though. In June 2022, the cops in Miami caught him speeding on a jet ski and tried to make Spottum pull over. He tried to do the race and started swerving between boats and people, but then the cops grabbed him and Spottum got booked for running from a law enforcement officer. Then a year later, Spottum tried to run from the cops again after they went to pull him over while he was in a Corvette. Spottum floored it and tried to get away, but then he crashed the whip and had to hop out on foot. He tried to hide out in the shed, but the cops found him immediately and hit him with some serious charges. Spottum didn't just run from the police this time. He was also carrying a Glock with a switch on it, and the cops found it in the vet. Getting shot, all the legal cases, and snitching rumors pretty much killed Spottum's career. He had the chance to really make it big and leave all the drama behind, but everything went wrong so fast and it really feels like he was cursed from the jump. His op Spinna Benz helped take Spottum down after he posted his snitching paperwork, but Spinna Benz didn't escape the Florida curse either. Spinna Benz and his brother, Whopper with the Chopper, both blew up in the Jacksonville drill scene with Young and Ace, but they were active in the streets way before they started making music. Spinna Benz caught his first gun case in the 10th grade and dropped out of school after spending a year in jail, and that's when he decided to really go hard in the booth. Spinna Benz and Whopper with the Chopper started a rap crew called BMG, but they didn't make any waves in the industry until they dropped Who I Smoke with Young and Ace and Fast Money Goon. Spinna Benz had a lot of momentum after the track came out, but his rap career took a hit after the cops booked him on a new gun case. Spinna Benz and his girlfriend were in a whip when the cops pulled him over and found guns in the car. Spinna Benz was already a felon and couldn't have guns, but they were all legal weapons that were registered to his girlfriend. The cops still booked him for the straps though, and Spinna Benz was facing 30 years if he didn't beat the case. During the trial, the prosecutors even used lyrics from his track, My Glock, to try and prove that Spinna Benz made his girlfriend buy the guns for him. On the track, he raps, My Glock cost 300. Oh, she 18? Get that bitch 300 too. Spinna Benz beat the gun case, but that wasn't the only legal drama he had. After he was arrested for the guns, the judge let Spinna Benz out on house arrest, but then he got arrested for trying to take his ankle monitor off. Spinna Benz was always flexing cash on social media, and fans didn't think he'd have to worry about the legal fees. But then the news broke that he couldn't even afford a lawyer. Spinna Benz still beat the gun case, but he was sentenced to 6 months in jail on a different charge. Then while he was in jail, a guard allegedly beat him up so badly that Spinna Benz had to wear a neck brace. Now he's still facing charges, and his career has fallen off completely. And what makes the situation even worse is that Spinna Benz's brother, Whopper with the Chopper, got hit with the Florida curse too. Whopper with the Chopper's been in and out of jail since he was like 15 years old, and picking up some clout in the rap games didn't keep him out of legal drama, and by the time he was 23, Whopper had already been locked up 7 times. What's crazy about Whopper and Spinna Benz is that they grew up going to private school and could have gone legit, but instead, they both hop off the porch and got active. And what really turned them up in the streets is when they linked up with Young and Ace. Whopper didn't catch any serious cases like his brother Spinna Benz after he blew up, but that didn't stop Whopper with the Chopper from falling off too. He was popping off after Who I Smoke came out, but Whopper never kept up the momentum. He's still dropping new music, but none of it's making waves anymore. When Young Miami and JT linked up to make the City Girls back in 2017, nobody expected them to blow up like they did. They had been performing at clubs and block parties since they were teenagers, but then they dropped their first official track and popped off from the jump. Young Miami already had a following on social media for being an IG influencer, but the City Girls track, Fuck That Nigga, ran up crazy numbers and helped them get a deal with Quality Control Records. Young Miami and JT were making waves in the industry, but the Florida curse hit them fast, and JT ended up getting booked on identity theft charges right after they started buzzing in the rap game. She got hit with a 24-month sentence, so Young Miami had to hold it down by herself. Even though JT was locked up, the City Girls got even more popular in 2018 after Drake featured them on the track In My Feelings. They dropped their first album with features from stars like Cardi B and Lil Baby, and after that, the City Girls were the hottest new rap crew in Florida. It didn't take long for everything to fall apart though. In 2019, Young Miami was leaving the studio around 1 in the morning when someone pulled up and started letting off shots into her whip. She was pregnant at the time, but luckily the shooters missed and she made it out of the situation alive. JT came home in 2020 and they dropped their second album with huge features like Lil Durk and Lil Baby. But then they started falling off as fast as they blew up. Their career already took a hit because some fans stopped rocking with Young Miami when she went on The Breakfast Club and said she wouldn't want her son to be gay.
If I saw anything gay in my son, that I would be him. I don't have nothing against gay people, but I wouldn't want my son to be gay.
Their second album still ran up decent numbers, but by the time they dropped their third project in 2023, it was clear that the City Girls weren't going to be taking over the rap game. Young Miami had also been making headlines for dating Diddy, but it turns out that Diddy was allegedly paying her as a sex worker. Rod Wave is one of the biggest Florida rappers in the game right now, but the Florida curse is still hitting him. Rod has been around the streets since he was a kid. Back in the day, his dad was hustling in the trenches and made sure the family always had money, fresh clothes, and anything else they needed. But when Rod went to middle school, his dad got booked on gun charges and went to prison. Rod's Uncle D stepped in to help out after his dad got locked up. But then a year later, D got booked by the feds for trying to sell 8,000 pounds of weed. He lost his dad and uncle to prison, but then Rod took an even bigger loss when his cousin Deja died from cancer when Rod was just 14 years old. At the same time, Rod's mom was working at a cable company and could barely keep the lights on, so he hopped off the porch and got active. Rod Wave got booked for shooting someone in the foot and spent a few months in juvie, but he caught a lucky break when the charges got dropped. Rod was on his way to putting both feet in the trenches, but then his dad got out of prison and pushed him into music. Rod Wave started dropping tracks in 2015 and stayed on the grind, and in 2019, it all paid off when his track, Hard on Ice, went viral and turned him into one of the hottest rappers in the game. Rod Wave already has 3 #1 albums on the charts and has worked with some of the biggest artists in the industry, but even he wasn't able to stay away from the Florida curse. Back in 2022, news broke that Rod had been arrested for allegedly choking his ex-girlfriend. The charges ended up getting dropped, but Rod still lost a lot of fans over the situation. Then in March 2024, Rod was allegedly involved with a shooting outside of a club in Florida. It's not clear how everything went down, but an argument broke out and somebody started letting off shots. 4 people got hit, but luckily all of them survived. The cops booked Rod Wave and 3 other dudes named Christopher Atkins, Keith Westby, and Kevontre Westby, who are allegedly affiliated with a crew called Young Gangsters. The cops arrested Rod for illegally possessing a firearm or ammunition as a convicted felon, but then they had to release him a couple of hours later. According to his lawyer,
it was completely unfounded. It was based solely upon the sworn statement of a law enforcement officer who told a judge that he was in possession of ammunition, which was not true, and that he was a prior felon, which was not true.
And the cops even admitted that Rod wasn't actually a convicted felon. It doesn't look like Rod Wave's gonna be facing time for the shooting, but even his concerts have been hit by the Florida curse. Back in 2020, Rod Wave went viral when he walked out in front of a crowd to perform and half of the stage collapsed. A bunch of his team fell down and Rod almost landed in the audience. Then in 2023, Rod had a show in DC, and while he was performing, someone came through and started breaking into his fans' cars. At first, rumors were flying that over 200 cars had been smashed up, but it turns out there were only about 10 cars that got broken into. Rod Wave survived the Florida curse and is still making noise in the industry. Newer rap fans might not know who Plies is, but back in the day, he was one of the biggest rappers in the game. In 2007, he linked up with T-Pain for the track Shawty and went platinum. His first 2 albums both racked up crazy sales, but Plies definitely got hit with the Florida curse. In 2006, Plies was opening up for Lil Boosie at a club in Gainesville, Florida. Plies was rapping longer than he was supposed to though, so the promoter cut off the mic. Plies and his homies confronted the dude over the situation, and that's when the fight broke out. It's not clear exactly what went down, but somebody upped the strap and started letting off shots. A few people got hit, but luckily everyone made it out of the situation alive, and Plies got booked for illegal possession of a concealed weapon. Plies ended up falling off pretty hard, but then in 2015, he went viral after a video came out showing someone slamming him off a stage during a concert. Then a couple of years later, news broke that Plies got busted trying to bring a Glock 23 on an airplane. A TSA agent spotted the gun in his bag, and Plies ended up getting booked on felony gun charges. The situation was looking pretty tough for him, but then Plies caught a lucky break and the charge was dropped. Rick Ross named himself after one of the biggest drug lords in America, which is why it's even more shocking that he's never really been in trouble. Rick Ross has been one of the biggest Florida rappers for years and has a lot of bars about the streets, but he never got hit with the Florida curse. Back in 2008, he got caught up on a weed and gun case, but didn't do any time over the situation. Then he got booked for weed again in 2011 and 2014. But in 2015, Ross actually caught a more serious charge. Ross and his bodyguard were both arrested for kidnapping the groundskeeper, who allegedly owed Ross some money. Ross allegedly pistol whipped the dude and knocked out 2 of his teeth, but he still pretty much skated on the case. Ross pleaded no contest to 5 misdemeanors and got the felony charge erased from his record. Rick Ross's homie DJ Khaled missed the Florida curse too. Khaled came up completely broke, but he never hopped off the porch and made money in the streets. He had to move around a lot back in the day because Khaled kept on getting evicted for not paying rent, and he actually had to spend a month in jail for driving with a suspended license. 1 month in jail was enough to make DJ Khaled realize he never wanted to go back. He stayed on the music grind and eventually became one of the most successful producers in the world. and the only trouble he's been in since the 90s is when he caught a ticket for driving his golf cart without shoes. Smoke Perp and Lil Pump both came up in Florida and blew up off the SoundCloud wave. When Smoke Perp was in high school, he started producing beats and trying to sell them, but nobody was buying them, so he decided to just rap on them by himself. Perp was getting some buzz on his name on SoundCloud, so he dropped out of high school and released his first music video back in 2014 with his cousin, Lil Ominous. Lil Pump was never even thinking about hopping in the booth, but in 2016, Smoke Perp made him a beat and asked Lil Pump to freestyle over the track. They ended up releasing it on SoundCloud, and Pump started buzzing immediately. Lil Pump was blowing up off tracks like Elementary, Ignorant, and Gang Shit, and in 2016, he headlined the No Jumper tour and performed at Rolling Loud too. Around the same time, Smoke Perp was getting bigger and bigger and working with massive artists like Chief Keef, Travis Scott, and Offset. Pump's career exploded in 2017 after he dropped the track Gucci Gang, which made it to number 3 on the Billboard charts, and he even worked with Kanye West on the song I Love It. Lil Pump and Smoke Perp also went viral for acting wild on social media, but they never got booked for anything serious. Pump had bars about shooting people like, spent 2 bands on Percocet, I hit my teacher with the fucking tech, Lil Pump, I do it for my set. But the only thing Pump ever shot was his own door while nobody else was even home. When the cops showed up, Lil Pump told him that someone tried to break in and shot through his front door, but the cops could see that the bullets came from inside the house and found a pistol that Pump tried to toss out the window. Smoke Perp and Lil Pump both had way better careers than most people expected them to, but they couldn't keep the momentum up for that long. J. Cole predicted their fall off on his album Kids on Drugs, and it didn't take long for his prediction to come true. In 2022, Smoke Perp started getting clowned all over social media after a video of his show looking basically empty went viral. Pump also dropped a new album in 2023 called Lil Pump 2, which sold way less copies than any of his past albums and didn't make it on any charts. So they fell off after the SoundCloud wave was over, but they still never got hit with the Florida curse. Nardo Wick blew up when the Jacksonville drill scene was taking off. He came up in the streets and started robbing people to put food on the table after his mom got out of prison. But Nardo always wanted to make it in the rap game. In 2021, he dropped the track Who Want Smoke and became one of the hottest rappers in Jacksonville overnight. G Herbo, 21 Savage, and Lil Durk hop on the remix and gave Nardo Wick a ton of attention. But then he got caught up in a wild situation with the US Marshals. It's not clear exactly what went down, but a video leaked showing Nardo and his homie laying face down on the pavement while the feds were holding them at gunpoint. Later, the news broke that it was over a concealed weapons case, but nobody knows why the feds went crazy on him like that. Rumors said that Nardo Wick had a target on his back since he was repping the Jacksonville drill scene though. Rappers get targeted by the police all the time after they blow up, and some people think that's why the marshals went after him. Luckily, Nardo didn't have to do any serious time over the situation, but getting booked by the feds isn't the only problem Nardo Wick's career had. In November 2023, a fan named George Obregon Jr. came up after Nardo Wick's show and asked for a photo. George Obregon just walked up to see his favorite rapper, but then Nardo Wick's security crew jumped in and started beating Obregon for no reason. They beat him so badly that Obregon had to be rushed to the hospital in critical condition because his brain was bleeding, and fans started calling out Nardo over the situation. Nardo Wick hopped on Instagram and said he wasn't cool with what happened and that he was in contact with Obregon's mom to see if he could help, but he still lost a lot of fans over the situation. It seems like Nardo Wick didn't really want his security to put hands on Obregon, but the Florida curse caught up to him and Nardo can't stay out of trouble. Another dude from Ace's side who almost got hit with the Florida curse is a rapper named GMK. He's allegedly affiliated with a crew called NHG or No Hospital Gang, which is what K-So reps too. GMK got booked for the first time when he was 14 for a strong arm robbery. He spent a lot of time in and out of jail, and that's why he decided to switch up how he was moving and start making music. It didn't take long for GMK to get some buzz on his name, but then he got locked up again and was facing 9 years in prison. According to reports, one of his homies flipped on him, and that's why he went down. The cops don't have a lot of evidence against GMK though, and he decided to fight the case instead of spending almost a decade in prison. At first, they offered him a 9-year sentence if he pleaded guilty, but GMK knew they didn't have any real evidence against him. So instead of taking the deal, he waited it out until they offered him a better deal. GMK was going to take the case to trial, but a week before he's supposed to be in court, the prosecutors realized that he wasn't playing around and offered him 3 years instead of 9. GMK still said no, so they came back with an offer for 13 months in probation. GMK knew if he got out on probation, the cops would find something to send him right back, so he turned him down again. A lot of dudes take the first deal they get just so they won't have to go to trial, but GMK played it smart and ended up getting a deal for 13 months flat with no probation.